Hey there, Elizabeth here, and before we get into today's episode, I thought I would just make sure you knew about my free workshop. It's called The 3 Secrets to Integrating the Arts with SEL. And if you're interested in creating some calm, dissolving those distractions, and promoting positivity in your classroom, this is definitely a workshop you want to check out. You can go to theinspiredclassroom.com/workshop and register for free right there. I hope to see you inside. Hello and welcome to the Inspired Classrooms podcast. I'm your host, Elizabeth Peterson, and I am looking forward to talking to you this episode, and our next episode about a couple of really foundational ideas when it comes to SEAL, social, emotional, artistic learning. Now, in our last episode, I told you a little bit about what that is, what SEAL is. And I'm going to be honest with you, when I talk about these two things, it doesn't just pertain to SEAL. It really has to do with all good quality social emotional learning. And the ideas that I'm going to kind of just be talking through a little bit, I want you to really keep in mind in terms of how you approach your teaching and your social emotional teaching that you might be doing with your students, whether you're doing it through a program, or if you're kind of doing it just from your heart and your guts, okay? Whether you're integrating it into your lessons on a daily basis. All right, so let me get started here. When I talk about introducing SEAL to a group of teachers or in a group of administrators, I'll often give them this line that SEAL is a proactive approach to explicitly teach social emotional skills through the arts. The two words I want to focus in on are proactive and explicit. In this episode, we'll look at the proactive, and in the next one, we'll look at explicit. So let's dive into what it means to be proactive, especially when it comes to social emotional learning. So there's a way to be proactive for yourself, and then also being proactive for your students. So let's look at what this means for you. I want you to think about how you can teach in a proactive manner as opposed to being reactive. And if you're like me, there have been probably numerous times when you have been reactive, right? Things have happened and you react to them. Maybe it's something a student says, or something a student does, or something that happens at a staff meeting, or you receive an email and you just react to it. And come on, tell me I'm not alone with that, right? But let's kind of flip that a little bit and think about how we can be proactive with certain things that we can actually have a little control over. And one of those things is how we can be proactive with our students. Let me give you an example. When I think about being proactive, the foundation to this is really about putting yourself out there for your students and really working hard to build relationships. Now, I know that the idea of, or I should say, like, people talking about how important it is to build relationships is almost becoming like a cliche thing right now in education. Yes, it's very important though, and so we can't ignore it. And I want you to think about how building relationships is part of this proactive teaching that we can do for our students. And let's face it, for ourselves as well. Because when we can build a good foundation of relationship with our students, then they are more apt to come into our classroom, to learn from us, to engage in the activities. Because when you can be proactive in that way, you are creating that safe learning environment that's so important for them to walk into each and every day. Now let's think about proactive teaching and how that will benefit your students. And it kind of boils down to this sentence that you need to practice skills before you actually need them. Here's what I mean. When I do something in my classroom like sound tracking, when I provide my students with music in the classroom that is made to help them self-manage, and we practice that and we talk about what that means, and I'm being proactive with the teaching of that strategy itself, then eventually a student can get to a point where if they're frustrated, if they can't figure out how to control themselves or how to get themselves to be calm and focused, they can then pull from that strategy because now they need it and they know the benefit of it. They understand how to use that skill and that strategy because we've spent so much time practicing it. Another example would be a few years back when I had a lot of students with negative thinking. And so we did a little lesson on positive thinking. And we wrote down some positive thoughts that we could have for ourselves that will help us to come to our work and get work completed. And we practiced that, and we practiced saying these sentences that they came up with. We drew ourselves saying these sentences. We made speech bubbles with these sentences. And that practice, before they needed it, was what helped them to use that strategy of saying a positive sentence to themselves when they needed it. That proactive teaching helped them to pull that strategy out when they needed it the most. So instead of me, going up to a kid who's frantic and going, "Calm down, you're fine, go ahead, you can do this," you just say that, say you can do this. Have you ever found yourself doing something like that? And the kid is too far gone, like they don't understand how that's even going to help them. But because I was proactive with the teaching, if a student finds themselves in that, something in their brain remembers that and can pull from it once they see the sentence on the index card that's on their desk or the speech bubble that's on the bulletin board. That's something we can actually point out. They know that it's there. They know it's theirs. They've practiced saying it before, and it's something that they can attain, as opposed to being in the heated moment and having someone try and force something on you that you've never even heard of before. I hope that makes sense, because this idea of proactive teaching, of practicing skills before the students need it, is really, really an important thing for us teachers to understand. Whether we do that proactive teaching in our classroom for our students and with our students, or if we're faced with one of those moments where a student needs a skill and we don't know where to pull from. So, what are your thoughts on this idea of proactive? Because I think that as we continue in our journey in our careers, where we definitely need to start implementing good social emotional strategies, the idea of proactive teaching is going to be ever so important. All right. Tell me some of your ideas, DM me, and I hope that this little bit of information has inspired you. All right, let me know, and I can't wait to talk with you again. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Elizabeth Peterson. Be sure to subscribe, and I look forward to continuing this journey with you.